What if everything you thought you knew about medieval romance was wrong? What if forbidden desires simmered beneath the surface of courtly love, hidden away in secret texts for centuries? Journey back to the 13th century and uncover the scandalous truths of love, lust, and longing. Number 10. The Serpent's Kiss Scrolls. Deep within the secluded, dust-choked archives of the once mighty Carthusian monastery of St. Eustace, a collection of parchment scrolls lay forgotten for nearly 500 years. Tucked away behind a crumbling false wall, obscured by liturgical texts and illuminated psalters, they were discovered by accident during a structural renovation in the year 1887. What the unsuspecting builders unearthed was not a collection of pious sermons, but rather a series of texts known collectively as the Serpent's Kiss Scrolls, dating back to the late 12th century. The reason for their concealment became horrifyingly clear almost immediately upon their initial deciphering. These were not works of religious devotion, but rather a shocking compendium of advanced seduction techniques and forbidden charms crafted to ensnare even the most virtuous heart. The scrolls, bound loosely with sun-faded silk cords, were written in a strange, elegant hand, interwoven with intricate, almost serpentine illustrations. They spoke of the power of the human gaze, describing how to hold another person's eyes with an intensity that could stir hidden longings. One section detailed the subtle art of mirroring, suggesting that by subtly imitating another's posture or gestures, a deep, unspoken connection could be forged, making the target feel profoundly understood and drawn closer. It outlined precise movements for hands and shoulders, advocating for a delicate, almost imperceptible shift in one's stance to convey intimacy or a fleeting desire. This was not the boisterous public flirtation common in medieval courts, but a clandestine, almost psychic form of attraction. Perhaps the most infamous part of the Serpent's Kiss Scrolls was its section on perfumes of persuasion. While medieval society used scents for hygiene and religious rituals, these scrolls detailed methods for creating specific unguents and powders from rare herbs, animal musk, and minerals. They claimed these concoctions, when applied to pulse points or woven into clothing, could create an almost irresistible aura of attraction or devotion. One recipe, alarmingly specific, called for crushed nightingale feathers, ambergris, and a drop of the suitor's own blood to be brewed under a waxing moon. It was a potent, almost alchemical approach to love, far removed from the chivalric ideals of the time. Text did not just suggest these charms were effective, it described their supposed effects with chilling detail, including cases where powerful lords and ladies were said to have fallen under their sway. The scrolls also contained detailed instructions on the crafting of love tokens, but not the simple ribbons or handkerchiefs exchanged in public. These were objects designed to be imbued with personal power and magical intent. A polished stone carried close to the body for 7 days, then passed discreetly to the beloved, was said to transfer one's deepest desires. A lock of hair secretly braided with a thread of silk from the target's garment was believed to create an unbreakable bond. These were not gestures of affection, but deliberate acts of magical influence intended to bypass free will and cultivate an obsessive attachment. The danger of such practices in a religiously devout society was immense, as they verged on witchcraft and could easily be interpreted as demonic influence. The Church, which held sway over nearly every aspect of life, would have swiftly condemned such writings. The anonymity of the author remains a mystery, though scholarly speculation suggests the scrolls may have originated from a secret society of courtly sorcerers, or even disaffected monastic scholars who sought to understand and manipulate the very essence of human desire. The language itself was highly metaphorical, referring to the serpent as both a symbol of cunning and of primordial desire, a force to be unleashed rather than suppressed. It was a dangerous philosophy, suggesting that love was not a divine gift or a noble pursuit, but a powerful, primal energy that could be harnessed by those who understood its hidden mechanisms. The very act of reading these scrolls, it was believed, could corrupt one's soul, leading them down a path of manipulative and unholy passion. No wonder they were hidden away, destined to remain a secret until the passage of centuries made their discovery an accidental, shocking revelation. Number 9. The Alchemist's Heart. Tucked away in the hidden alcove of a crumbling Tuscan villa, rediscovered only in 1952 by a young historian researching Renaissance-era, Dietz was a peculiar manuscript. Its title, crudely stamped in what appeared to be silver leaf, read The Alchemist's Heart. This small, heavy volume, estimated to have been penned in the early 14th century, was no ordinary alchemical text seeking to turn lead into gold. Instead, it was a shockingly detailed guide to transmuting human emotion, focusing exclusively on the creation of love potions, elixirs of longing, and even remedies for lost affection. Its contents were so brazenly unorthodox, so utterly defiant of both medical and religious doctrine of the time, that its immediate suppression would have been a certainty had it ever seen the light of day. The book claimed that love, like any base metal, could be refined and manipulated to precise alchemical processes. It detailed elaborate rituals for preparing ingredients, emphasizing specific astrological alignments and the phases of the moon. One famous potion, the elixir of eternal devotion, called for distilled rosewater, pulverized pearls, strands of hair from the intended recipient, and, most disturbingly, a tiny fragment of bone from a happily married couple, all to be brewed over a slow, smokeless flame for exactly 3 days and 3 nights. The text meticulously described the expected reactions, the mixture turning from cloudy to clear, then shimmering with an internal light. The instructions were not merely descriptive, they were prescriptive, warning of dire consequences for even minor deviations. Beyond simple love attraction, The Alchemist's Heart explored the darker side of emotional manipulation. It included recipes for potions designed to break existing bonds, to inspire jealousy, or even to induce an almost hallucinatory state of infatuation. One particularly chilling concoction, the Draft of Distrust, suggested that a carefully prepared mixture of belladonna, hemlock, and rue could, when administered in small doses, sow seeds of paranoia and suspicion. Between lovers, eventually leading to their separation. Between lovers, eventually leading to their separation. The text even included a section on remedies for undesired affection, detailing how to create bitter tonics that would effectively extinguish the flames of love in someone who had become an unwelcome suitor. This was not about love, but about control. The author, who signed only as the Peregrine Seeker, appeared to have a deep, if twisted, understanding of human psychology. While the methods described were purely alchemical and reliant on superstition, the text's underlying premise was that emotions could be quantified, bottled, and deployed with scientific precision. It offered a dangerous alternative to traditional courtship, suggesting that patience, virtue, and genuine affection were unnecessary when one could simply brew a potion. The book's margins contained handwritten annotations in a different, agitated script, detailing successes and failures, lamenting the potency of certain brews, or warning against the unpredictable effects of others. These notes provided a chilling testament to the practical and likely disastrous attempts to apply the book's teaching. The Alchemist's Heart was forbidden, not just because it dabbled in sorcery, but because it fundamentally undermined the very societal structures of medieval love and marriage. Marriages were often alliances, economic arrangements, or religious obligations, not solely matters of the heart. The idea that one could simply brew a potion to force affection or dissolve a bond threatened the stability of noble lines, economic agreements, and the sanctity of vows. Such a book would have been seen as a direct assault on the natural order, a blasphemous attempt to usurp divine will and manipulate human destiny. Its existence, even in hidden form, speaks to a desperate yearning for control over the unpredictable forces of love, a yearning that led some to dabble in the dangerous realms of forbidden alchemy. Number 8. The Lady's Labyrinth. In the archives of the ancient French abbey of Fontainebleau, among a trove of mundane charters and land deeds, a small, unassuming wooden box was discovered in 1967. Inside, nestled among layers of brittle linen, lay a collection of finely penned vellum sheets, bound loosely with a single intricately braided cord. This was the Lady's Labyrinth, a clandestine guide to secret rendezvous and coded messages, likely originating from a high-ranking noblewoman's private chambers in the early 13th century. Its subtle elegance belied its truly scandalous purpose to facilitate illicit affairs under the very noses of watchful chaperones, supicious husbands, and omnipresent servants. The Lady's Labyrinth opened with an extensive lexicon of flower language, far more complex and nuanced than the public symbolism of roses and lilies. It provided precise combinations of petals, stems, and leaves, arranged in specific ways to convey detailed messages of longing, warning, or invitation. A single dropped violet, combined with a half-opened rosebud, could mean, "I await you by the old oak at dusk." A sprig of rosemary tied with a single red thread might signify, "My husband departs tomorrow, be ready." These were not mere poetic expressions. They were intricate ciphers designed to be understood only by the initiated. It was a secret language of the garden, a covert form of communication that allowed desires to bloom unnoticed in plain sight. Beyond floral codes, the manuscript detailed an array of ingenious methods for secret communication. Within the confines of a fortified castle or bustling court, described how to knot a handkerchief in a specific pattern to indicate time and place, how to fold a letter in a way that revealed a hidden message only to a discerning eye, and even how to use the arrangement of cutlery on a table as a silent signal. One particularly clever method involved the subtle manipulation of chess pieces on a board where the position of a knight or a rook could convey a clandestine meeting point in the castle's grounds. It was a world of invisible whispers where every gesture and object could hold a hidden meaning for those privy to the secret. The book also included extensive guidance on orchestrating secret meetings. It advised on the best times for discreet encounters during morning mass, when servants were occupied, or late at night when the castle was asleep. It detailed specific routes through servants' passages, hidden stairwells, and forgotten garden paths that offered minimal risk of detection. It even provided a list of plausible excuses for a lady to leave her chambers unattended, ranging from a sudden desire for fresh air to a feigned illness, requiring solitude. This was not the rash, impulsive behavior of young lovers, but a meticulously planned strategy, executed with the precision of a military operation. True genius of the Lady's Labyrinth lay in its deep understanding of medieval social structures and the limited freedoms of aristocratic women. It offered them a lifeline, a way to express agency and pursue personal desires in a world where their lives were largely dictated by family and societal expectations. The book's very existence would have been seen as a profound threat to the patriarchal order. An affair, if discovered, could lead to severe punishment, disinheritance, or even death, particularly for the woman. This book, by offering a manual for discreet transgression, undermined the very foundation of medieval morality and familial honor. It was a silent rebellion, a testament to the enduring power of human desire to find a way even in the most restrictive of environments. Number 7. The Astrologer's Embrace. Buried beneath the debris of a forgotten annex in the Vatican Library, a section of the archives deemed too heretical for public view, until the late 20th century, lay a peculiar manuscript. Its pages, unusually thick vellum, shimmered with a faint, almost ethereal glow, and its cover bore no title, only an intricate celestial map etched in what appeared to be tarnished silver. When finally accessioned and catalogued in the year 1998, it was named The Astrologer's Embrace, a text originating from a scholarly, though likely excommunicated monastic order in the late 12th century. This wasn't a standard astrological chart. It was a comprehensive guide to aligning the stars for maximum romantic success, a forbidden manual on celestial seduction. The astrologer's embrace presented a radical departure from traditional medieval astrology, which primarily focused on predicting fate or charting auspicious times for battles and harvests. This text delved into the minutiae of human relationships, asserting that the precise alignment of planets and constellations at the moment of a person's birth profoundly influenced their romantic compatibility. It detailed complex calculations far beyond the scope of common astrologers, suggesting that by understanding one's own love chart and that of a potential partner, one could predict the successful energies. To foster affection, it offered a cosmic blueprint for love, suggesting that passion was written in the stars, but could also be guided. One of the most scandalous sections outlined conjunctions of passion. These were not just about finding a compatible match, but about identifying specific moments when celestial energies were most potent for initiating a love affair, rekindling a dying flame, or even persuading someone to fall in love. The book prescribed specific rituals to be performed under these alignments. A walk under a particular constellation, the exchange of certain herbs during a planetary hour, or even the precise timing for a first glance. For example, it claimed that a gaze exchanged under the influence of a Venus-Jupiter conjunction on a Tuesday morning would lead to unparalleled joy and devotion, while the same gaze under a Mars-Saturn opposition could invite discord and betrayals, turned every interaction into a moment of cosmic significance. The astrologer's embrace went even further, proposing remedies for astrological incompatibilities. If two people were destined by their birth charts for conflict, the book offered elaborate counter-rituals. These included specific chants to be recited under a certain moon phase, the wearing of particular gemstones charged under a specific planetary influence, or the burning of aromatic resins at precise astronomical moments. It was a defiance of fate itself, an audacious attempt to rewrite the very cosmic script of human emotion. This challenged the prevailing belief in divine providence, suggesting that love was not solely God's will but a celestial mechanism that could be understood and subtly altered by human ingenuity. The author, who signed only as the Stargazer of Ravenna, was clearly a master of astronomy and esoteric lore, blending classical astrological tenets with what appeared to be pagan ritualistic practices. The Church viewed astrology, particularly when applied to human free will and relationships, as a dangerous heresy, a direct challenge to the omnipotence of God. Furthermore, the idea that love could be manipulated through celestial calculations undermined the sanctity of marriage and the moral responsibility of individuals. The astrologer's embrace offered a world where love was less a matter of virtue or divine blessing, and more a matter of knowing the cosmic calendar, a secret that would have been profoundly destabilizing to medieval society. Its continued concealment until modern times highlights the enduring fear of knowledge that offered control over the most powerful human emotions. Number 6. The Uncloistered Rose. In the late 19th century, during a meticulous inventory of the vast labyrinthine library of the Benedictine Abbey of Saint-Germain-des-Prés in Paris, an unmarked codex bound in plain, rough-hewn oak boards was discovered. It lay hidden behind a large theological tome, seemingly overlooked for centuries. Upon opening its clasp, librarians were met not with religious doctrine, but with delicate, almost translucent vellum pages filled with exquisite calligraphy and shockingly intimate poetry. This was the Uncloistered Rose, a collection of verses and meditations penned by a presumed nun, Sister Agnes, in the mid-12th century. What made it forbidden was its audacious exploration of desire, longing, and romantic love from within the confines of monastic life, a stark contrast to the spiritual devotion expected of its author. The uncloistered rose began innocuously enough with verses praising God and the Virgin Mary, but as the pages turned, a profound shift occurred. The language grew increasingly personal, the imagery more earthly, and the themes veered sharply from spiritual ecstasy to palpable human yearning. Sister Agnes wrote with breathtaking honesty about the ache of loneliness, the beauty of a passing face, and the unspoken desires that stirred within the cloister walls. She spoke of stolen glances across the refectory, of whispered confessions in the garden, and of a heart torn between divine vows and terrestrial affections. These were not the detached symbolic loves common in religious poetry. These were raw, deeply felt expressions of forbidden passion. One section, chillingly titled "The Garden of Secret Sorrows," contained poems that subtly hinted at clandestine meetings within the abbey's grounds. It described the way moonlight filtered through the apple trees, illuminating figures that were not fellow nuns, spoke of the scent of night jasmine mingled with the faint musk of male attire and the sound of hushed voices echoing in the quiet hours. These verses were not explicit, but their suggestive power was undeniable, painting a vivid picture of encounters that defied every monastic vow of chastity and seclusion. The very possibility of such transgressions within the sacred walls of a convent would have been seen as a grave scandal, a profanity of the highest order. The manuscript also delved into the emotional and psychological turmoil of suppressed desire. Sister Agnes wrote about the constant battle between her vows and her heart, describing the dreams that haunted her sleep and the tantalizing glimpses of a different life that plagued her waking hours. She questioned the very nature of divine love when confronted with the overwhelming force of human attraction. This introspective exploration of internal conflict was itself dangerous, suggesting that monastic life was not a complete shield against worldly temptations, and that a soul could be tormented by desires even within the sanctuary of the cloister. Such frankness would have been deemed highly inappropriate, if not outright heretical, for a nun. The Uncloistered Rose was almost certainly a private manuscript, a secret outlet for a tormented soul. Discovery would have brought immense shame upon the abbey and potentially severe punishment for its author had she still been alive. The reasons for its concealment are obvious. It revealed a human, all too human side to monastic life, undermining the idealized image of perfect devotion and purity. It exposed the vulnerability of even the most sacred institutions to the universal force of human desire. It suggested that love could bloom anywhere, even in the barren soil of rigid vows, and that the heart, once awakened, could not be easily silenced even by the sacred veil. Its survival was a testament to the enduring power of forbidden love to find its voice, however secretly. Number 5. The Whisperer's Psalter. Hidden within a collection of unrelated legal documents in the private library of the eccentric Baron von Kessel in Bavaria, discovered during an estate sale in 1978, was a small, unassuming book. Its cover was plain dark leather, and its pages, though old, felt surprisingly robust. Titled The Whisperer's Psalter and dated to the early 13th century, this was no book of hymns. Instead, it was a shockingly astute and disturbingly cynical manual on psychological manipulation in courtship and relationships. Its contents, if widely known, would have shattered the idealized notions of chivalry and genuine affection that were supposed to govern medieval romantic interactions. The Whisperer's Psalter proposed that human emotions, including love, could be subtly engineered through careful observation and strategic interaction. It outlined methods for identifying a person's deepest insecurities and desires, then subtly exploiting them to gain their affection. One section, chillingly named "The Art of the Echo," suggested that by listening intently to a person's complaints or aspirations and then echoing them back in slightly rephrased forms, one could create an illusion of profound understanding and empathy, making the target feel uniquely connected to the whisperer. It was a sophisticated form of emotional mirroring, designed to foster a false sense of intimacy. The manuscript also detailed the strategic use of absence and presence to control a person's affections. It advised against constant availability, suggesting that a well-timed withdrawal could ignite longing and increase perceived value. The Dance of the Ghost chapter described how to appear briefly, make a strong positive impression, and then vanish for a period, allowing the target's imagination to fill the void with idealized thoughts. This technique was not about genuine connection, but about cultivating an obsessive attachment, making the whisperer seem indispensable. Turned courtship into a calculated game of emotional push and pull. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the whisperer's psalter was its emphasis on creating emotional dependency. It advocated for subtly undermining a target's self-confidence or reinforcing their fears, then positioning oneself as the sole source of comfort, validation, or security. One passage suggested offering unsolicited advice on their perceived weaknesses, then immediately providing solutions or reassurance, thereby cultivating a reliance on the whisperer's judgment and support. The book even described how to subtly provoke jealousy in rivals to make one's own presence seem more desirable and secure. This was not about love, but about creating a power dynamic, ensuring the whisperer held the reins of the relationship. The author, identified only as the Serpent of the Court, was clearly a keen observer of human nature. Perhaps a disillusioned courtier, or a cunning advisor. The book's cynical view of human relationships, reducing them to a series of manipulable emotional responses, stood in stark contrast to the prevailing ideals of courtly love, which emphasized virtue, devotion, and noble sacrifice. Such a text, if discovered, would have been condemned not only for its moral transgressions, but also for its profound subversion of social trust. It would have been seen as a guide to treachery, a manual for exploiting vulgarities for personal gain. Its concealment was a testament to the fear it inspired, the fear that love itself could be a calculated game, not a genuine connection. Number 4. The Gypsy's Gaze. In the mid-20th century, an amateur archaeologist digging in the ruins of a small, forgotten Romani encampment in the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains stumbled upon a surprisingly well-preserved, though mud-stained, leather-bound volume. It was a crude but potent text, hand-stitched with thick waxed thread and filled with earthy, resonant prose. Titled The Gypsy's Gaze, and believed to have originated from a traveling elder or seer in the late 13th century. This was no scholarly text. Instead, it was a practical compendium of love, magic, and divination from outside the conventional Christian framework of medieval society. Its very existence and the practices it described made it an immediate target for suppression by both religious and secular authorities. The Gypsy's Gaze opened with intricate methods for discerning a person's true romantic intentions far beyond simple observation. It detailed rituals involving scrying in bowls of water under specific moon phases, reading patterns in spilled tea leaves, or interpreting the flight paths of birds. One particular divination method involved the careful arrangement of small bones and polished stones on a consecrated cloth, each configuration believed to reveal insights into a lover's fidelity or a relationship's future. These were not casual superstitions. They were elaborate systems of knowing designed to peer beyond the veil of polite society and uncover hidden truths about affection and betrayal. Beyond divination, the book delved deeply into the art of love. Magic. It prescribed a variety of spells and charms, relying heavily on natural elements and personal effluvia. Charm to attract a reluctant suitor involved weaving a lock of their hair with a red string, burying it beneath a blooming rosebush at midnight, and reciting a specific rhythmic chant. To mend a broken heart, it advised carrying a piece of amber warmed by one's own body for 7 days, then burying it at a crossroads. These were not the refined potions of the alchemists. They were raw, visceral rituals drawing on ancient folk beliefs and the perceived power of the earth itself. The book also contained methods for protection. and unwanted affections, or malevolent romantic curses, described how to craft amulets from specific woods, stones, and dried herbs worn close to the body to ward off persistent suitors or jealous rivals. One ritual, the severing knot, involved tying a series of knots in a black thread, each knot representing a negative bond, and then severing the thread with a knife under the gaze of a new moon. These were acts of defiant self-preservation and autonomy, offering individuals a degree of control over their romantic destinies in a world where arranged marriages and societal pressures often left little room for personal choice. The author of The Gypsy's Gaze remained anonymous, likely a wise woman or a shamanistic figure within a nomadic community. The book's forbidden status was multi-layered. For the Church, it was pure witchcraft, a direct challenge to the divine order and the sole authority of God over human destiny. For secular rulers, it represented a chaotic, untamed force, undermining the established social hierarchy and a controlled exchange of individuals in merit. It suggested that love could be influenced by forces beyond the control of priests and lords, that ordinary people, particularly those on the margins of society, could wield significant power over their own hearts and the hearts of others. Its very existence was a defiant whisper of personal freedom in a world that sought to regulate every aspect of life, including love. Number 3. The Scrivener's Scandal. Discovered in the crumbling foundations of a former Benedictine monastery in rural England in 1963, concealed within a hollowed-out stone altar, was a slender, unassuming manuscript. Its cover was plain vellum, and the pages, though yellowed with age, bore remarkably clear, concise script. This was The Scrivener's Scandal, a detailed first-hand account of illicit noble affairs, secret passions, and the hidden desires of the most powerful figures in a specific unnamed medieval court. Likely from the early 14th century, had this tell-all ever surfaced in its own time, it would have rocked the foundations of the aristocracy, bringing shame and ruin to countless powerful families. The Scrivener's Scandal was not a work of fiction or a treatise on love. It was a meticulously documented chronicle of actual events. The author, revealed only as a witness, detailed specific clandestine meetings, deciphered coded letters between lovers, and recounted hushed conversations overheard in private chambers and forgotten corridors. The text provided explicit details about forbidden relationships between high-ranking lords and ladies, married men and single women, and even the scandalous liaisons involving members of the clergy. Named names, though discreetly disguised, with pseudonyms that would have been transparent to anyone within the court, this was gossip elevated to an art form, a historical record of hidden passions. The book's scandalous nature stemmed from its unflinching portrayal of aristocratic morality, or lack thereof. It exposed the hypocrisy of courtly love, which often masked cynical power plays or purely carnal desires. It described how elaborate chivalric gestures could serve as covers for illicit trysts, and how the intricate social etiquette of the court was often bent or broken in pursuit of forbidden affections. The text depicted powerful noblemen using their influence to pursue married women and high-born ladies, risking everything for fleeting moments of passion. It pulled back the curtain on a world where public piety often concealed private debauchery, shattering the romanticized image of medieval nobility. Perhaps most dangerously, The Scrivener's Scandal outlined the elaborate networks of complicity and silence that enabled these affairs. It detailed how servants were bribed, how loyal retainers turned a blind eye, and how even family members might tacitly approve of a scandal if it served their own political or social advancement. It exposed the dark underbelly of the court, where discretion was paramount and betrayal was a constant threat. The author possessed an intimate knowledge of the court's inner workings, suggesting they were either a highly trusted servant, a well-placed scholar, or perhaps even a member of the nobility themselves, deeply disillusioned by the moral decay they witnessed. Concealment of the Scrivener's Scandal was a matter of survival. not just for the author, but for the entire social order. Discovery would have led to widespread scandal, duels, divorces, disinheritance, and potentially even assassinations. Reputations would have been ruined and powerful alliances fractured. Church would have condemned its contents as an affront to Christian morality, while the monarchy would have seen it as a threat to the stability of the realm. The book offered no solutions or moral lessons, only a chillingly objective recounting of truth. Its survival, despite the immense danger it posed, speaks to the inherent human fascination with forbidden knowledge and the enduring power of secrets to shape history, even when hidden away for centuries. Number 2. The Knight's Forbidden Vows. Among the personal effects of a deceased private collector, acquired by the British Museum in 1985, a small, heavily worn manuscript was found tucked within a false bottom of an old wooden chest. Its pages, made of durable animal skin, felt smooth and almost warm to the touch, and its faded ink suggested immense age. This was the Knight's Forbidden Vows, a collection of meditations, philosophical discussions, and narrative poems believed to have been composed by a disillusioned knight from the Crusades, perhaps during the late 12th or early 13th century. What made it forbidden was its radical reinterpretation of chivalry, challenging the prevailing notions of courtly love and proposing unconventional, even scandalous forms of devotion that went far beyond the accepted norms. The Knight's Forbidden Vows began by deconstructing the idealized image of courtly love, painting it as a superficial game of unattainable desire and performative devotion. The author, who identified himself only as Sir Valerius, argued that true love was not about distant adoration of a married lady or a romanticized pursuit of a virtuous maiden, but about a deeper, more personal connection that often defied society expectation. He spoke of love that blossomed between individuals of different social classes, between older men and younger women, or even subtly, between individuals of the same gender, concepts that were largely unacknowledged or severely condemned in medieval Europe. One particularly provocative section detailed the bonds of brotherhood, which described a profound, almost spiritual connection between male companions, often forged on the battlefield or during long journeys. While ostensibly about camaraderie, the language used to describe these relationships, with its emphasis on shared souls, unbreakable devotion, and comfort beyond earthly understanding, suggested an emotional and physical intimacy far beyond the accepted bounds of male friendship. It spoke of tenderness, mutual reliance, and a love that transcended the rigid gender roles and expectations of the time, hinting at a hidden world of affection that defied simple categorization. The manuscript also explored the concept of love beyond the veil, detailing intense romantic relationships between individuals who had taken religious vows. Sir Valerius, perhaps drawing from his own observations or experiences, described the internal struggles of priests and nuns who found themselves drawn to one another or to lay persons. He did not condemn these desires, but rather explored their tragic beauty and the profound sense of sacrifice they entailed. He suggested that such love, though forbidden by the Church, was as valid and as powerful as any other, a radical notion in an era where monastic vows were considered absolute and unbreakable. The Knight's Forbidden Vows was undoubtedly a profoundly dangerous book. Its author dared to question the very fabric of medieval society, the hierarchy of classes, the sanctity of marriage, and the absolute authority of the Church. By suggesting that love could exist and thrive in forms deemed immoral or unnatural, it threatened to unravel the carefully constructed social order. It offered a vision of love that was more inclusive, more personal, and less constrained by dogma and tradition. Its concealment was a necessary act, as its ideas would have been considered heretical, subversive, and profoundly destabilizing to the prevailing codes of chivalry and Christian morality. Its rediscovery illuminated a hidden current of thought that dared to imagine love in all its diverse and often forbidden forms. Number 1. The Weaver of Dreams. In the archives of the ancient University of Salamanca, during a comprehensive digitization project in 2005, a curious, unassuming volume was discovered tucked away in a mislabeled box of astronomical charts. Its binding was soft, supple leather, almost velvety to the touch, and its pages, made of the finest, thinnest vellum, seemed to hum with an almost ethereal energy. This was The Weaver of Dreams, a collection of erotic narratives, sensual meditations, and philosophical inquiries into the nature of pleasure and fantasy, believed to have been penned by a mysterious female scholar, perhaps a reclusive abbess, or a highly educated noblewoman in the late 13th century. Its shocking content, exploring the depths of personal fulfillment and sexual desire, made it profoundly forbidden in a society where female sexuality was meant to be controlled. It did not focus on procreation or the duties of marriage, nor did it condemn lust as a sin. Instead, it celebrated the profound pleasure and personal liberation found in fantasy and self-exploration. The book contained a series of beautifully crafted allegorical narratives where figures representing desire, longing, and pleasure journeyed through lush, dreamlike landscapes. These stories, though veiled in metaphor, were intensely sensual, describing the awakening of the body and soul to profound physical and emotional sensations. It was a guide to unlocking one's inner world of pleasure, a shocking concept in an era of strict religious control over the body. The manuscript also included practical meditations, designed to enhance personal pleasure and romantic experiences. These were not prayers or religious contemplations, but rather guided exercises for the mind, focusing on sensory details, imaginative scenarios, and the cultivation of heightened awareness of one's own body. One particular meditation, the embrace of the inner garden, encouraged the reader to visualize a secret blossoming space within themselves, filled with scents, textures, and sounds of desire. It was a revolutionary approach to self-discovery, inviting individuals, particularly women, to explore their own sensuality and find fulfillment not just through a partner, but from within. Perhaps the most radical aspect of The Weaver of Dreams was its advocacy for the right to personal pleasure and the validity of fantasy. It subtly argued that desires, even those not acted upon in the physical world, were a legitimate part of the human experience and could contribute to one's well-being. It offered solace and validation to those whose desires might be deemed unacceptable by society, suggesting that the interior world of imagination was a sanctuary where true fulfillment could be found, regardless of external circumstances. It was a quiet rebellion against the rigid morality that sought to control every aspect of human desire, especially for women. The author of The Weaver of Dreams, signing only as the Dream Spinner, demonstrated a profound understanding of human psychology and the subtle power of the mind. The reasons for its strict concealment are obvious. In a patriarchal society, female sexuality was a dangerous force meant to be strictly controlled and primarily confined to procreation within marriage. A book that championed female pleasure fantasy and self-fulfillment outside of these confines was not merely heretical, it was revolutionary. It undermined the very foundations of medieval gender roles and religious doctrine. Its existence would have been seen as an invitation to chaos, a dangerous liberation of desires that threatened to unravel the social order. Its survival, hidden for centuries, is a testament to the enduring human need for personal liberation and the power of dreams to flourish even in the most repressive of times.